The only thing worse than sitting in traffic is all of the wear and tear your engine experiences from the constant stop and go. So do your engine a favor. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics, made from natural gas and designed for complete protection. Pennzoil Synthetics are pure performance.
The journey to the tourney brings us to Louisville for an ACC showdown. Where the 16th-ranked Cardinals face 11th-ranked Virginia. Coverage begins Saturday at 12:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio. This morning on Mike and Mike.
You know, I'm an African-American quarterback that may scare a lot of people because they haven't seen nothing that they can compare me to.
We love our cornerbacks to act that way, right? We love our receivers to act that way. But now it's a quarterback. It's supposed to be the face of our franchise.
Carolina running game is so punishing. They pound away with Jonathan Stewart, then they pound away with Mike Tolbert. And, oh, by the way, my quarterback's 245 pounds. I'm going to pound away with him as well.
Without a doubt, he just all of a sudden unloads with both hands on his stick and cross-checks an official. That was intentional, and a big old suspension. It needs to happen.
It's time for Mike and Mike on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
Mike Golic Jr., I'm Ian Fitzsimmons in for Senior and Greeny here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and the ESPN app, presented by Progressive Insurance. And we appreciate Domonique Foxworth, former president of the NFLPA. Longtime corner in the NFL, played for Denver. We'll get your thoughts on your old squad, the Denver Broncos, coming up in a moment. And he has an MBA from Harvard. So you have an interesting thought on how to hire a coach
so
in
first,
the National Football League.
I got to give a shout-out to Maryland, my undergrad institution also. But, no, I just think I think my experience as a player, my experience as like an executive for the Players Association, and my experience at business school has kind of led me to rethink how NFL teams should hire coaches. And I just think selecting from a pool of the best coordinators just seems like the wrong way to go about it, because it's the skills that is required to be a great coordinator are very different from the skills that are required to be a great coach. So to me, it reminds me of, like, if I asked you, like, who's the best player on the Houston Texans?
J.J. Watt.
Okay, that's the right answer. I also would have accepted DeAndre Hopkins for less points, but it's correct. So I say what's the most important position on a football team? Quarterback. So let's put J.J. Watt at quarterback. He's the best football player. It's the most important position. But we all accept that no, J.J. Watt's skills are suited to be a defensive end, not to be a quarterback. So why do we think that when being a head coach is like part politician, part philosopher, part psychologist, part public face, and like a small part of it is being a tactician? All of being a coordinator is most of it's being a tactician. So we hire coordinators and expect them to go be head coaches. And it just seems odd to me. And I think in general, we should diffuse some of the decision-making responsibilities that coaches have, because I think we tax their bandwidth far too much. And that's why we see, like, Andy Reid's a perfect example. He can't call plays and manage the clock and be on top of the emotions of the team. Like, it's just, he's a really great coordinator who has been such a good coordinator, like a running quarterback who's dependent on his offensive acumen to be great, hasn't developed all the other skills that may be required to be a great coach.
So where do you go then to find your next wave of head coaches if you're not going coordinator? Why
not look at executive? Why not think about GMs taking over as kind of head coaches and integrating those things? And they don't necessarily have to, or you can send coaches to management or head coach school, because you don't really give them. Head coaching is a real difficult thing to do. And I mean, the best head coaches I've ever played for were not necessarily all that great tacticians. And in Baltimore, John Harbaugh was a special teams coach, and he would come into our defensive meeting rooms and not fully understand the scheme, but that didn't matter. We had tremendous defensive players and tremendous defensive coordinators, and same thing on offense. John didn't know a ton about that, but we had people he did what head coaches should be doing, managing the team, staying on top of the motion of the team, motivating guys, those sorts of things. And I just think we put far too much on current head coaches, and they haven't necessarily proven that they have the management skills to be a head coach. So why do we continue to promote coordinators to do it?
But for me, the trend in the NFL right now, and especially with this last, sort of stretch of hires here this offseason, a lot of the assistants that we saw, whether it was Dirk Cutter, whether it was Adam Gase, they all have a unique relationship, either in Adam Gase's case, to quarterbacks and helping quarterback play, or in Dirk Cutter's case with Jameis Winston and the guy currently on the team. Same in New York and all these situations. To me, that seems to be the new trend now. Right, wrong, or indifferent.
So I understand that, but if you're hiring him because of his offensive coordinating skills and his relationships with quarterbacks, then why don't you pay him to do that? And so, like, I don't think that we necessarily need to pay head coaches more than we pay coordinators. So, like, the same way if we go back to the J.J. Watt example, J.J. Watt gets paid more than his head coach. He gets paid more than his quarterback because the value that he brings to the team is higher. So what if your defensive coordinator is so talented that he deserves to get paid more than the head coach? Pay him well to do what he does well. Like, moving Dirk Cutter to be head coach is not going to make him better at being an offensive coordinator or better at relating to the quarterback. It's going to make him worse at that, and that's what you want him for, right? So why not allow him to focus on doing that and have other people manage those sorts of things? And I mean, I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and like my point about the decision making, like one of the famous, like Steve Jobs' famous example is he used to wear the same thing every day because he did not want to waste energy making those decisions. So then why do we have a head coach who's supposed to be responsible for making fourth down decisions? Some of them call plays. Some of them need to be prepared to manage sideline things and consult with the defense. Like, it just seems to me that we're asking them to do too much. There's no rule about diffusing the responsibility amongst many coaches and allowing. So if my only responsibility during the game is to manage timeouts or to be on top of when we should go for it on fourth down, I feel like I would be able to do that better.
Understood. Interesting.
Blow it up.
I agree with all of it.
I mean, I don't understand why teams who aren't winning Super Bowls, like mediocre teams, why wouldn't you take that risk? I mean, I think of this theory similar to the way that I think of Moneyball. It's like you're looking for a way to get an advantage, to find a competitive advantage. Okay, maybe we can't find one statistically. In the NFL, because the salary cap is very hard to find an advantage is talent-wise. So why not find an advantage in how efficiently you run your organization?
Well, yeah, I guess to your point, that was what I thought of. So much was made this offseason of Cleveland.
Yeah.
Bringing in executives of that caliber, the Moneyball sort of school of thought. And if you are one of those teams Cleveland, you can't get much worse than they've been over the last number of years. Why not try something new? Because worst case scenario, you're right back where you are now, but at least you've gone off the path. You've tried to exhaust all other options.
Yeah, I certainly agree.
He's Domonique Foxworth, longtime corner in the National Football League, former president of NFLPA with Mike Golic Jr. I'm Ian Fitzsimmons, in for Senior and Greeny here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2. If you're just tuning in, Cam Newton yesterday addressed a lot of the perception that is around him and surrounds him as to why a lot of people dislike him and the way he goes about playing the game. If you're just tuning in, here's part of Cam Newton's response to why his perception is what it is.
I've said it since day one. I'm an African-American quarterback that may scare a lot of people because they haven't seen nothing that they can compare me to. Here I am. I'm doing exactly what I want to do, how I want to do it. And when I look in the mirror, it's me. You know what I'm saying? Nobody changed me. Nobody, made me act this certain type of way. And I'm true to my roots.
Domonique is a former NFL player, and you hear what he said. You see what he said on ESPN2. If you're watching or listening on ESPN Radio, your reaction.
Oh, yeah. I see you, Cam. Like, that's all. That's a feeling that comes to my mind because, like I said before, it's him standing up for a segment of our culture that has not always been accepted, especially in that position. And I'm so proud of him, and it gave me goosebumps, and I was thrilled to hear it. And it's something that I spoke of earlier. Is it seems to me that he's one of the first athletes that has refused to, especially at that position, has refused to conform and suppress part of his culture and part of who he is. And it's in my mind, it's an advancement. And I know that it's just football. It's not the world in general, but in my mind, it speaks to a place where we can, and Russell Wilson is the same way, a place where we can get to a point where you can be black and you can be unapologetically black in all settings and be your full self at all times and ditch the misconception that you have to pretend to be something you're not to conform. So I love that we have him. I love that what he's saying, and it just makes me proud and it gives me chills, and it makes me want to try to be more true to myself.
Well, I think what you said is true. It's a step in the right direction in so many ways. And I said this earlier, the first guy going through the wall is always going to, take a few body shots. It's going to take a lot of the shrapnel.
Allen Iverson in basketball?
Yeah, I can say, and obviously not comparing some of the off-the-field issues, the AI with what Cam's done, certainly, but in the same way, I mean, Allen Iverson had the tattoos. He was, he had all that stuff, and he really changed the way that we, see and accept the things on the basketball court in that regard. But now for Cam, you've got a whole new generation of kids because, like you said, Russ is still being himself.
Yeah.
I mean, he's being who he is, and that's great. But there are also a lot of people, like you said, a lot of black kids that look and act like Cam and want to do the things that they want to do, and now he's showing them.
I disagree with that part. I don't think it's just African American kids.
Yeah,
I think it's young kids. I think it's young kids in general.
I guess I'm saying when someone looks like you, it's so different.
It is. It certainly is, and I think that's the important thing. Why I brought Russell back into this conversation because I remember when I was growing up, where you couldn't be Russ in when I was in school and not get made fun of. And now there is a segment, there's a lane for black nerds and there's a lane for those, not to say Russ is a black nerd. Russ is cool as hell. I take that back. Like he's obviously very cool, but I mean, there are lanes that are opening up and there are obviously a ton of systemic, societal and social economic issues. But I think the idea of being able to see yourself and what that means to someone is important, and what President Obama means to the community. Like, we don't know what it means right now, but we'll see what it means going forward. When I was growing up, like, all we saw, and till very recently, all we saw in popular media was like the black thug, like, and that it has an impact on you. And to be able to see Cam be so articulate and unapologetically black, and to me, it's like, I mean, there's talking about things that other people don't necessarily, if you're not in the black community, you don't have an experience with, and it's refreshing to me.
And I'll even go this far. I know Charles Barkley was saying that he's disliked because he is African American, and Cam Newton addressed that perception also yesterday. But to me, it's also, and I said this earlier, he's one of those guys that if he's on your team, you love him, and it's the theatrics, it's the pleasure that he gets in playing the game of football.
I agree with that wholeheartedly, but I think that when the word team, it's farther than just the team that he plays for. He's not on a lot of people's team as far as race is concerned. And I think that's why black people get behind him. That's why considering all the terrible things that Floyd Mayweather has done, that's why when Floyd is fighting, if you ask your black friends who's going to win, they're going to say Floyd, and you ask anybody else, they're going to be rooting for whoever the other person is. It's because you identify with that person, even if it's just the color of their skin, you identify with them, and they're a part of your team, so to speak. And I think Cam's team is farther than just the Panthers, and what he represents he represents razor bumps and bass drums to me. Like that's stuff that you guys wouldn't have nothing to, you have no understanding of what razor bumps are. I guarantee you if I holler at Cam about razor bumps, he and I can have a 30-minute conversation about how to get rid of them and how to keep from having them.
I know exactly what they are, but okay, I got you.
And I guess that all goes back to my point before, though, about what Cam's doing for the next generation of kids like him that want to be quarterbacks in this league now. They're saying, all right, I don't have to hide who I am. If because
and it's not just for the kids; it's for the coaches too. Because for Cam, they tried to move him to tight end or something. They're going to be coaches now who see Cam Newton and then see another young black quarterback and say, rather than saying, "Hey, we need to make this guy tight end," they say, "Hey, maybe this is Cam Newton."
Ryan Clark earlier, for people just tuning in, was here with us for a couple of hours, and he said Cam is right, but for the wrong reasons. He said this isn't about race; it's about culture, and there is a difference.
I disagree. So I think it is about culture, but I think it's also about race. I think generally I'm not a psychologist, but I enjoy reading things about like behavioral psychology. So I think one of the things that you'll find is that people make opinions, like split-second opinions, and then find like post hoc justifications for those split-second opinions and convince themselves that they arrived at their opinion by some form of logic, when the truth is their instinct was to select this opinion and then they need to support it. I think that Cam being black causes several people, and him behaving the way that he does on the field causes several people to instinctively not like him, and then they look for these post hoc justifications to say, well, it's not because I'm not racist, it's just something about him, it's something. And the truth of the matter is, whether they know it or not. In many cases, you have a reaction in either positive or negative. And like mine, and I try to be clear and honest with my biases, is like, Cam's black, and I was on his team from day one. And when everyone was ridiculing him for the things that happened in college, I was going to support him. And it's part because I'm black. And I think that some of the people who are against him need to fully admit and acknowledge that part of the reason they're against him is because they had a not necessarily positive reaction to this black man displaying the amount of power and control and influence, and also thumbing his nose at the status quo or how you want him to be.
Yeah, well, we talked about that a lot before with Ryan, the idea that, like you talked about, people are just saying, well, I don't. Ryan said he had a conversation with somebody, and they said, well, I don't know why, but I just don't. He rubs me the wrong way. And then it
was a quarterback's wife.
It was a quarterback's wife, a guy who had been in the NFL, so she'd been around pro football, and said, he rubs me the wrong way, and I don't know why. And then, like you said, you get a lot of those red herrings going back to, the problems he had in college in Florida with the computers and the money and everything else like that, to kind of distract from that. And I also think, and there's certainly a racial element that you can speak to a lot better than me, but I think there's also...
No, we can all speak to it.
I guess that's true. But there's also, a big generational gap there, too, and I think that's part of it is you have this old school versus new school type deal where you've got a generation of people, because I know, just in disagreements I've had with my dad in my own house, that you see things through a different set of eyes in that, and he's open-minded about a lot of things, but you get a lot of people saying, well, they want to hand the ball to the ref and they want you to act a certain way when things go wrong. But then all of a sudden you get a guy now, like Ryan talked about before, that can dance, that likes to have fun, that wants to do it his own way.
I love watching a guy play.
And people do love it, but there are certain, there's always going to be that certain people that hold on, and it's not necessarily saying just people in that generation, but people that hold on to that old school mentality that aren't willing to let go of the
I
way
do find
they
it
want
very
to see
interesting that like people use class lists to talk about people like Cam and how they behave on the football field. It's kind of absurd to me that people try to apply their like off the field sensibilities to things that take place on the field. Like, would you be comfortable with somebody walking into your office and tackling you? Like, the things that happen in a course of a football game or on a football game are inherently classless. Like him balling up a flag and throwing it, or him dancing, frankly, is a step up in class to me than the rest of the things that happen on the football field. It's just ridiculous.
I mean, think about what we just saw too in basketball. Like you have Blake Griffin, who punched one of the assistant equipment guys in the face. Now there's probably not going to be any legal action there taken, whereas if someone got punched in the face here, they'd be escorted off the property in handcuffs more than likely.
Absolutely.
Because
I'm sure you've seen your share of locker room fights.
Well, I mean, we all have. We've all been around and we've seen it's a testosterone-filled environment. It's just, I guess overall, not to get into that point again, but it's just a different world. Sports. Someone called it the other day. It's sort of, or Doc Rivers called it. It's that fairy tale world. You don't live by the same rules that normal society is governed by. So to try to apply a lot of those at times, it doesn't match up.
By the way, Blake Griffin, do yourself a favor. That assistant equipment manager, who's also your friend, his entire family, friends, no matter how many he wants to take, that is an all-expense paid vacation for at least 10 days to whatever. He wants to go to Atlantis, he's going to Atlantis. Yeah. Wherever he wants to go. Vegas, go to Vegas. You take care of that dude.
Maybe just start by taking him out to a dinner where you don't punch him in the face.
That's a good step one. Let him eat.
Speaking of punching, and by the way, Charles Barkley will be on the Dan Le Batard Show with Stu Gatz at 10:30 Eastern today to weigh in on Cam Newton. If you're just tuning in, Charles Barkley saying yesterday, hey, people don't like him in America. Number one reason is because he's African-American. More from Barkley on that very thing coming up 10:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio on the Le Batard Show with Stu Gatz. Now, have you ever wanted to hit an official?
Absolutely.
Have you ever hit an official?
Absolutely not.
Have you come close to hitting an official?
Absolutely not.
You groaned when I asked you this earlier, Golic. Like, yeah, I wanted to hit one.
Oh, I mean,
how close? Was there a moment?
No, I mean, but, for offensive linemen, I think it would be a lot easier than anything because you're going up to the second level where they are and cutting a lot anyway. So if you happen to just, miss the defender a little bit and roll more his way, that's a little easier to cover than what this guy did. But no, I never went that route.
The reason I bring it up is because Calgary Flames defenseman.
Oh, that was ugly.
Dennis Weidman tattooed Don Henderson, linesman, official, in a National Hockey League game last night. And, man, Weidman gets knocked into the boards. He gets rocked. He gets up a little woozy, And if you're listening on ESPN Radio, go Google. You're watching right now on ESPN2. Judge for yourself. As Weidman gets hit into the boards, then kind of gathers himself, starts skating toward his bench, and then sees Don Henderson, NHL official, kind of changes his direction a little bit, speeds up right at the end, and then takes his stick with both hands and boards him. Just checks him. Look, that to me is without a doubt it was intentional. I know he was woozy at first. He said afterward that he apologized to Don Henderson, that it was not intentional. He didn't realize it was an official. Man, if you watch that, there's nothing you can do to convince me otherwise that was 100% with malice and intentional.
So, I mean, have you ever been angry at someone and wanted to hit them? I think we can all relate.
Absolutely.
So,
but
I mean,
don't.
I think my back to kind of biases. Like, my proclivity is to defend the players. Like, I was president of the NFL Players Association. It's just like in me, and he's making it really hard. Like, there's no way to defend it. Like, all I can do, and I try in my life in general to apply empathy, because I think, like, we don't need another person with a pitchfork. Like, it's pretty clear watching that everyone's gonna tell us how awful he is. So I just try to wonder, like, what are the confluence of events that would lead me to act in that way? And it has to be more than what just happened on that ice. So, I mean, to try to have some empathy and some sympathy. I mean, I think plenty of people will have sympathy for the official, and plenty of people will tell him how awful a human being he is. So why don't we try to find some people and find some ability to understand, empathize, and figure out what is actually going on with this guy so that he can get the help that he needs.
For me, I kind of subscribe to a little bit of a different theory, and just that
so.
usually for me, the simplest solution is often the most true one. And in this instance, I think you have a guy that just in a moment, like you said, we all have a line.
Yeah.
So something happened, he crossed that line, and he made a dumb decision. He did a dumb thing. He's going to get to sit for probably 20 games now. I think that's the minimum suspension in the NHL for what went on here. And, you know, you hope he doesn't do it again.
So, but, I mean, we assume, I try to assume that, like, I try not to assume a level of superiority to anybody. So,
no.
I'm not saying that you are. I'm just saying that I assume that there are a number of things that if they happen to me, I would do the same thing. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, what are those, like, what could be happening in his house?
Good guy. By all accounts, good guy. Never had
in his house, in his
issues.
mind, or outside, or on because that's not just on the ice. Like, there are millions of hockey games in history, and stuff like that rarely happens. And unless we're going to say that he's like some depraved individual,
which he's not, by all accounts.
No. Yeah, so there's something. There's something more going on.
Everyone has bad days. We all have.
That dude had a bad night.
Everyone's got bad days. His came
bad
out onto the ice.
Word. Yeah.
And, you know, listen, we've all been there, and certainly you can empathize with the action, but at the end of the day, he's also going to be penalized for those actions, and that we can't help him out with. He's got that coming to him at this point.
Mike and Mike is presented by Progressive Insurance. Domonique, always good to see you. Thanks for stopping in the studio, man. Great to see you.
Fantastic. Thanks. I hope we can make that nickname stick for you.
Yeah.
Do you like it?
I'm liking Creamy.
We're going with Creamy.
Twitter handle.
I love it. All right, Creamy.
Neat. Good to see you.
Take it easy, guys.
A reminder that check out John Clayton's Golden Arms on the Golden Game on an on-demand special featuring the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game, sharing their favorite memories from the biggest games of their lives. Available on demand on ESPN Radio on the TuneIn Radio app. Coming up next, talk some hoop. We'll bring in our man Seth Greenberg following this from 1-800-Flowers.com.
Sending roses for any special occasion, her birthday, your anniversary, and, of course, Valentine's makes a huge impression. Do what we do. Wow her with a beautiful bouquet of roses from 1-800-Flowers.com. 1-800-Flowers is passionate about delivering the best selection of high-quality roses backed by their 100% smile guarantee. 1-800-Flowers.com has a special limited-time offer for our listeners only available through tomorrow. Order a dozen assorted roses and get a vase and a box of chocolates for free, only $29.99. That's a dozen beautiful roses, a vase, and chocolates for just $29.99, over 50% off the original price. Or double it to 2 dozen roses and a free vase, a box of chocolates for just $10 more. But you need to order now because the great offer ends tomorrow, only while supplies last. Order today. Go to 1-800-Flowers.com from your desktop or mobile device. Click on the radio microphone in the upper right corner and enter Mike. That's 1-800-Flowers.com and enter Mike. We'll be right back. Mike and Mike.
ESPN Radio Sports Center.
Well, Mike Golic Jr., I'm Ian Fitzsimmons, in for Senior and Greeny here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2. The Warriors, shocker, they win again. This time they destroy the Dallas Mavericks, 127-107. It's Golden State's 40th straight home win, tied for the second longest streak in NBA history. Spurs beat the Rockets 130-99. San Antonio becomes only the fifth team in NBA history to start a season 25-0 at home. And Novak Djokovic defeats Roger Federer in 4 sets, advances to the Australian Open final for the 6th time in his career. SportsCenter is brought to you by Bosch Icon Wiper Blades with ClearMax 365.
Bosch reminds you to change your wiper blades this season and be prepared when extreme weather hits, because like you, Bosch cares about what's ahead. Visit Bosch88feet.com.
We're presented in part by Progressive Insurance, and all guests join us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line unless they show up in studio, like our good friend Seth Greenberg. Coach, how are you, man?
Life is good. Undefeated.
There's only 2 things undefeated, baby. And we won't get into what's 2. There are only 2 things that are undefeated.
Man, you sound like your old man.
He's never heard that before.
I heard that once or twice this morning. I say we had Coach Rivera on this morning. He said the same thing.
He couldn't pull off the beard, though.
Oh, no.
You should be a relief pitcher with that beard.
I'm telling you, I think I'd fit in with some of those guys. There are a couple World Series runs by a lot of great bearded guys I could have had a good time with.
You play it well.
Yeah, me, not so much. Trust me. If you're only listening on ESPN
yours is
Radio.
groomed. I mean, relief pitchers, they just let the thing grow out.
Yeah, I can say I'm like a Boston Red Sox pitcher from their nice run there.
You've got that rodent kind of thing that could be an animal living in there.
It probably is. I haven't checked in a while.
There you have it. Hey, Coach, before we get into college hoop, your reaction to LeBron James saying he's not a coach killer and that he just has a very high basketball IQ.
It's great. He does have a high basketball IQ. But let me ask you something. How many coaches have to get fired to determine you're a coach killer? Is it 1, 3, 2? I mean, here's the deal. Before David Blatt was fired, you know that they went to LeBron James. Let's not fool ourselves and say, hey, LeBron, what do you think? Now, he could have been a coach saver. He could have said, that's my dude. Hey, I believe in him. We're going through a rough patch, but we're growing. We just got Kyrie back. We got to change some things up. So, I mean, he could have said that. Or he could have said, you know what? Tyrone's my guy, and, it's time for change. We've lost his voice. And look, if you can't coach your best player, you can't coach your team. But it's also your best player's responsibility to allow himself to be coached. I got a kick out of the whole thing. He's staring in the mirror, with the shirt off, 7 o'clock in the morning in the practice facility. Really? Are you kidding me? If you're a pro, all right, you're in shape. That's your responsibility to be in shape. That's not someone's responsibility. Because if David Platt was practicing him hard, they would have said, oh, man, he doesn't understand the NBA. He's working us out too hard. All of a sudden, you're the leader of that team. Hold everyone else accountable, all right? And you don't have to worry about all that. So, I mean, look, he's a great player. A great player is more important than a great coach or a coach. But to say, I'm not a coach, I don't know how you define a coach killer, but he could have been a coach saver. That's the reality.
I guess for me then, is that his responsibility, though, I guess where he's at in his career, if he feels a certain way, is that him going out of his way to say that? Should he just say nothing? I guess what would be the
No,
preference?
I think he's got to say what he feels. I mean, I think it's his hey, look, they come to him, they value his opinion. He's going to say what he feels. I mean, and that's not, I don't have a problem with that. Because that's the makeup and the culture of the NBA right now is, you know what? We've got to re-sign LeBron. So we've got to make sure LeBron's more important. We're going to get a coach. We're going to find a good coach, whether it's Tyronn Lue, whether it's Thibs, whoever. There's going to be a good coach. Who's more dispensable? David Blatt's more dispensable. That's just a reality. Does that make him a bad coach? No. Like the underneath that, he never endorsed a guy one time. He whether it was the timeout, whether it was, hey, everyone makes mistakes. How about the 8,000 good decisions that David Blatt made during his 1.5 years? Yeah, it's easy to point to the 1 or 2 things. And who knows, hey, he might have had LeBron inbounding the ball, and someone else could have made that shot too now.
Yeah, but hold on a minute, Coach. I'm not having LeBron inbound the ball. Game on the line, I'm getting the ball to LeBron.
I don't disagree, except they got other guys who can make shots. Let me something.
This is when you yell at me.
This is when you yell at me. Here we go. Here we go. What's as important? The pass. You don't get to the shot unless you get the pass. Passer is the eyes of the receiver. So, maybe they're saying, you know what, LeBron, he's my best passer.
Those other guys can pass
over
too.
The defense. Yeah, you want J.R. Smith passing?
Not so much.
You want 6'1" Dellavedova passing?
Not so much.
All right. You need a guy that has size that can look over the defense. Yeah. Do you want LeBron shooting that shot? Sure. He's missed shots too. There's no guarantee that he was going to make that shot. Having said that, those are two plays. That doesn't define someone's career. Now, whether was he over his head, was he under his head? The bottom line thing is if you can't have the attention of your best players, you can't coach the rest of your team.
That's where I wanted to go next. Do younger players, like look at a superstar at LSU right now, best freshman in the country in Ben Simmons, and one of the best players in the country. You've been there and done that with star players also. How do they see, how do they view, how do they react to what we're talking about right now?
Well, it all depends on how he's being coached. Ben Simmons is a unique guy because, I say he's Magic-esque without the personality. He almost defers.
Very humble.
Yeah, very humble. Unbelievably. The manner in which he carries himself is just phenomenal. I think everyone's looking at this. It's just not the media. It's just not the NBA. I think there's a trickle-down effect in everything, whether it's in football, whether it's in basketball, whether it's high school to college, or college to high school, or the NBA to college. So, yeah, people look at it. The difference is I really believe coaching's all about relationships and trust. All right? If you don't have real rich relationships and trust, you can't coach that player. Like, think about the best coaches that coached you. You believed in them. You'd run through a wall for them.
Yes.
All right? If you don't have a real relationship and you don't have a real trust between the player and the coach, all right, then you know what? You're going to win the games you're supposed to win. And you know what? You're not going to win the other ones. Because to win those other ones, you got to play for something bigger than yourself. And that's the reality. And I think that's the problem. Now, having said that, typical of when changes are made, I mean, look, we're celebrating. Oh, we scored 117 points against, Minnesota and Phoenix. Those teams are bad. You're going to score 117 points against those guys. We're running now. Yeah, they turn it over. You run. We're going to throw it off the backboard and catch it and dunk it. Great. You're supposed to smack those teams. They're bad. You're good. You already proved you're what's their record right now?
Who's that? The Cavs?
The Cavs.
They're 2-1 with
30-something and 11.
They are 32 and 12.
I mean, you've already won 30 games. It's not like wait, we've really turned this thing around. We beat Phoenix and Minnesota. Come on, give me a break. But having said it, if you have a great player, you got to appease the great player because you have to sign LeBron next year, and he's a guy that other guys want to play with to have a chance to win. But if they think they're going to run up and down and beat the Golden State Warriors and the San Antonio Spurs, their issue isn't that. You know what their issue is? Kevin Love's got a guard, Kyrie Irving's got a guard, and the team. The championships LeBron won, the culture of those teams, was it to outscore people in Miami or was it to get stops?
Oh, my God. First, it was on the defensive end.
And I rest my case. Thank you very much.
That's all.
We're not turning you loose
yet.
Can I
drop the mic or something?
By the way, another one, to that point, Dallas Mavericks, when they beat LeBron's Heat, it was Tyson Chandler and Jason Kidd playing phenomenal defense, along with Dirk actually playing a little defense every now and then. And he became the best player on the planet for a 30-day stretch, and it started on the defensive end. Relationships, coach, between players and the equipment staff.
Oof.
When you saw the Blake Griffin story, your reaction?
Any bit of hair I would have had in my head as the coach of the Clippers would have been gone. Because usually those are your dudes. I mean, those are your guys. I mean, those are the guys that do anything and everything for you. I mean, it used to be the trainer. And back in the day, it was the trainer. Your trainer was like the voice of your team. If you wanted to find out what was going on with your team, it was the trainer. It was the guy because they were in the locker room, they're getting treatment.
But baseball, it's the clubbies.
Yeah, exactly. But the equipment guy, I mean, that's your dude. I mean, that's the guy that you can have real rich relationships. I mean, those guys are, in a lot of ways, they're runners. In a lot of ways, they're doing anything and everything. To me, that's a head scratcher because everything I'd known about Blake Griffin was he was a pretty good guy. Makes a great commercial. But to me, it's almost mind-boggling.
Can you stick around?
Sure.
All right, Seth Greenberg sticking around with us. We're going to get into an interesting comparison. Ben Simmons, Magic, that and a ton more. We'll get you ready for Iowa, Maryland. That follows this right here on Mike and Mike here on ESPN Radio and ESPN2.
It's that time again. Now we're talking about resolutions. We're talking about No, we're not talking about resolutions. We're talking about car maintenance. You're probably sitting in traffic right now, putting stress and strain on your engine from all the stop and go. So do your engine a favor this year and make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics. Pennzoil Synthetics take a synthetic motor oil to the next level of performance. They use a base oil made from natural gas, which is purer than base oil made from crude oil. They provide complete engine protection, clean pistons, fuel economy, horsepower protection, wear protection, excellent performance in extreme temperatures. Make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics at pennzoilsynthetics.com. We'll be right back, Mike and Mike.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
So Seth Greenberg, Mike Golic Jr., I'm Ian Fitzsimmons, in for Senior and Greeny here on ESPN Radio, ESPN2, and the ESPN app. Reminder, Mike and Mike is brought to you by Burger King. Like burgers, like chicken, and you'll love the new Flame Grilled Chicken Burger from Burger King. It is a tasty burger. A flame grilled chicken patty topped with veggies on a toasted bun, and right now they're just two for $5. The new Flame Grilled Chicken Burger only at Burger King, limited time only. Price and participation vary. We'll get to measurables. Now, this one drives me nuts. Coming out of the Senior Bowl, and then what a young player. You probably know him, Anthony Cowan at St. John's High School in Washington, D.C., snubbed by the McDonald's All-American team because he wasn't tall enough. We'll get the measurables in a moment, Coach. But yeah, it looks like you're going to go exactly where I think you are going to go. But first, this Ben Simmons Magic Johnson comparison. Talk to me.
That's who I see. Everyone says LeBron. Some people say Tracy McGrady, Lamar Odom. I think they're very, very similar to the two guys. And think about the two teams, because we remember the national championship at Michigan State. We don't remember, the 4 and 5 losses to teams that weren't ranked. So, I mean, their seasons are going and mirroring each other. But size, skill, vision, feel, unselfishness, the manner in which they play. Now, the one thing that isn't the same is Magic's personality was larger than life. I mean, he had a larger-than-life personality. From the day he played in the Dapper Dan to the day he played for the Lakers. Ben Simmons, in a lot of ways, he is too nice a kid. He defers more than, say, a Magic would have deferred. But when you look at their two games, I mean, when Ben Simmons pushing in transition, all right, you're going to get a layup. When Ben Simmons rebounds the ball on the defensive end, it's a fast break. When Ben Simmons comes at you off a ball screen, he's going to get it to the open man. The same things that Magic did, all right, Ben Simmons did. He could finish around the basket. He uses his size. He can turn the corner. And he makes hard passes and hard plays look easy and fun.
Oh, let's keep the comparison train going then. Another guy who we saw talking about during the break, shooting the lights out of the gym from way, way, way back in Buddy Hield at Oklahoma, and the comparison, naturally to another sharpshooter from distance, and Steph Curry, who's hot right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, Buddy Hield is a world-class shooter. I mean, he's a world-class shooter, and he gets it off really quick. He doesn't have the handle that Steph Curry has. He can't beat you. He doesn't have the different type of layups that Steph Curry has. We see Steph Curry knock down jumpers, come off ball screens, attack guys. But think about the off-the-wrong-foot runners he has. Think about all the different types of layups he has around the basket to keep the defense off balance. Buddy Hield his game is going to translate to the NBA. Because you cannot have enough guys.
You guys are putting some pressure on Ben Simmons and Buddy Hield, man, comparing these guys to Magic and Steph.
I didn't say he was.
I mean, come on now.
But they're Magic-esque, and he's not Steph Curry-esque. But what he is he's not a good shooter, Buddy Hield. He's a great shooter. And that team is really good.
Before we get to measurables, which drive me insane, either you can play or you can't play. Just watch the stinking game, man. But Iowa-Maryland tonight. ESPN, this is a marquee matchup. What do you see happening tonight and the biggest thing that decides this marquee matchup this evening?
Well, I think Iowa's going to change their defenses tonight. I think they're going to play three-quarter court trap. They're going to go some 2-3 zone. They're going to go some 1-2-2 zone, some man-to-man. Why? Because you got to keep Melo Trimble off balance. I think that's really important. Melo Trimble might be the best guard in the country coming off that high ball screen and making plays. So by changing your defense, you keep them off balance. Now, Maryland, on the other hand, they've got to take care of the basketball because they're a high turnover team. When I say high, they turn over almost 20% of their possessions. Iowa doesn't turn it over. They take care of the basketball. In fact, what they do is they turn you over. So if Maryland's kicking it all over the place, huge advantage for Iowa. Jared Utoff, if you haven't seen him yet for Iowa, That dude can flat play. He's kind of like a mini-me Dirk Nowitzki. He's not Dirk Nowitzki, but he's a mini-me Dirk Nowitzki.
That's high praise,
I mean,
man.
he's 6'9". He can shoot the three. He's got the little step back. He runs the floor, and he's averaging 3 blocks a game, which is crazy. Iowa's really good. Terrific passing team.
Going to be a great game tonight. Now, you and I talked about this earlier.
Yes.
And we agree. Either you can play, you can't play. And coming out of the Senior Bowl, Alabama's all-world linebacker, Reggie Ragland, there were groans that came over from the scouts when he didn't measure 6 feet and an inch. So all of a sudden now he can't play? I mean, so he's not 6'1". He's not very tall. Turn the tape on. Watch the stinking game. The man can play. The young kid Anthony Cowan out of St. John's. I'm reading this in the Washington Post flying up here. Like point guard, under 6 feet, right? Well, now he's on the McDonald's All-American team. Watch the guy play. The very next game where he comes out and he hangs 40 on like one of the best teams in America that has the McDonald's All-American. And, oh, by the way, he's going to Maryland. Coach, when you were recruiting a kid or when you're evaluating talent, how much do you put on measurables and how much do you just put in you can either play or you can't play?
I'm not a crazy analytics guy. I think they have a value. To me, I'm a big believer. You can play, you can't play. What are your tangibles? What's your character? How competitive are you? Can you make plays? Do you see plays? What type of teammate are you? Yeah. Made shots, missed shots. If you're evaluating a shooter, yeah, that's something. I didn't worry about speeds, and that's a great thing about our sport, and 40s and weights, and length becomes a factor in terms of when you evaluating big wing players because length kind of distorts passing lanes defensively, but. You either got a game or you don't have a game.
Thank you.
I mean that's just the way it is. And it's real simple. And you can eyeball. That's why I never looked at scouting reports. I used them as a source of names. I really didn't care what you thought or you thought. I got paid to evaluate players. Now I've made mistakes. I made a ton of mistakes. But you know what? Don't come up to me and say, hey, that guy can really play for you. Well, come on, give me a break. The guys people would come up and tell me that guy could really play for you. Those guys stunk. They were trying to get him a scholarship. I mean, let me figure out who can play for me. Golic, you can play for me.
And you know what? I appreciate it. I'd play for you any day, Coach. Any day. And no, I think you're right. I think in certain instances, football's a little bit of a different animal, like you said, because I think there are certain things that, in general, when you're looking to find the median guy, you want a certain model for what you're looking for. But there's always going to be outliers. There's going to be guys that weren't big enough, guys that weren't small enough that can overcome it in other areas. And I think that's what's so great about sports in general.
I think your dad's back with us tomorrow.
God willing.
Soft.
Levitar's coming up next. Have a great day. This has been Mike.
Coach Love is back to transform a nation of hopeless men into hopeless romantics. And Sport Clips Haircuts has just the game plan for you, with a chance to win cool prizes, too. See the rules and enter at sportclips.com/Coach Love. No purchase necessary. U.S. only. 18 or older. Ends 2/5/16. Void where prohibited.
Turns off the staggered screen and fires a three. The drama around Blake Griffin and the Clippers continues to grab headlines. The play on the court hasn't suffered.
Chris Paul, step back J. Oh, yeah, for Chris Paul.
Chris Paul, DeAndre Jordan, and the Clippers look to continue to roll when they face Jimmy Butler, Pau Gasol, and the Chicago Bulls.
Butler down court, throws it down with two hands.
Coverage begins Sunday at 2:30 Eastern on ABC and on ESPN Radio.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Jim Cantore, and here's something everyone should know. If you're driving and you can't see clearly for 1 second at 60 miles per hour, you can't see clearly for 88 feet. And a lot can happen in 88 feet. That's why Bosch created the Icon with ClearMax 365. It's a rubber technology for longer lasting performance, not found on any other wiper blade. Because like you, Bosch cares about what's ahead.
The journey to the tourney brings us to Louisville for an ACC showdown, where the 16th-ranked Cardinals face 11th-ranked Virginia. Coverage begins Saturday at 12:30 Eastern on ESPN Radio.